Hello everyone. So a lot of people have been asking me for my build, so I'm just gonna do a quick build showcase explaining how the build works, what I have. Of course, there will be a POB in the description, so if you just want to copy that, then feel free to do so. But it is essentially a totem build. This build was designed to be as comfortable in Trial of the Sekhemas as possible. So it went through a lot of iterations, but I've pretty much settled on this character. So firstly, we're playing on a Gemling Legionnaire. Why Gemling Legionnaire? Mostly because I wanted to mess with the additional quality. And one of the additional quality that is insanely good on Gemling is Blink. So if you look over here, Blink has additional teleportation meter. So I have a level 35 blink right now, which on a level 35 blink, this is a 5.4 meter blink. But with additional quality, you can get up to 2.5 meters. So that's 50% blink distance with quality. And then right now I have it on my amulet over here. So I don't actually get quality from the gem, but I do have like additional quality from other places, and with those additional quality, we can get up to 20% more. I still haven't done my final upgrade, but yeah, so we can get up to 20% more blink for around about 40% blink distance. So basically we're doubling our blink distance if we do that. So with that much blink distance, what's a piece of content that can utilize fast blinking thing? It is Sanctum. So we decided I'm going to specialize my build into a Sanctum runner. Very simple. You just grab all of these cooldown recovery nodes as much as possible to reduce our blink cooldown. You can use a Temporalis here to reduce your blink cooldown to essentially 0, and just blink around everywhere with a 10 meter blink radius. So how large is a 10 meter? This is a 7.5 meter and it already goes off screen, right? You're already blinking off screen. 10 meter essentially brings you all the way over here to that the crafting bench over there. So it's around about 2 screen distance worth horizontally 10 meter blink, and you can be using that on without a cooldown if you have Temporalis. Rest of the build is quite simple. The only thing we're using is spell totems. So why totems? Because totems are very good for no-hit Sanctum. So I was doing this build with no-hit Sanctum. For no-hit Sanctums, and because it's a totem build, you can just set your totem really far away from you and then just, yeah, not have to really deal with the enemies from anywhere up close. So yeah, that's very, very safe. We're trying to do no-hit Sanctum. And then the rest are just kind of whatever. But refutation, so right now I'm using a Sacrificial Regalia for 360 runic ward from the body armor. The Rune Seeker with maximum ward for another 300. And then all the other pieces have ward as well. So in total, I have 1000 ward. And because I'm using Rune Seeker, this is +9 to all levels, all spell gems. So with +9 over here, and +4 on the amulet, so that is +13. So when you have +13 skill level, you get things like this, a level 33 refutation. So what does refutation levels do? Refutation, if you don't have any spell levels, so basically the spell level scales this line over here, 50% less stun threshold, and if I socket it in, the 50% less now becomes a 14% less. So, and then with quality, right? Remember, we said we're quality stacking, so with 20% and another 16%, that you can bring up to 20%. So with 20% more quality, you can get 40% more, which scales this even less. So... Ooh, actually, it is just the quality that gives the less stun threshold. I think it's actually the buff. Yes, it's the parry debuff duration, actually. That is totally my fault, bad. But because we're quality stacking, we reduce this less stun threshold to a measly 14% over here. But we have 5% more stun threshold per 10 runic ward. And if he's spending 1,000 runic ward, that is 100 stacks of that, which means that you have 500% more stun thresholds. So you're not really getting stunned using Refutation, which means when you're using Refutation, you're essentially immortal. And fun fact, if you block in Sekhema, block and evasion do not reduce your honor gauge. So let's say you're doing no-hit Sekhema, you use Refutation. Refutation lasts right now for us. It lasts a good duration. Do I have a duration over here? Okay, I do not, but duration, it is like a 14 second duration. So for this 14-second duration, you just straight up, you're immortal in Trial of the Sekhema. So when you're doing no hit, that's totally fine. And our cooldown is only 0.4 seconds because we are taking essentially every single cooldown recovery rate nodes over here, and then the rest is just totems. And then you might see something over here. That is because we have a Svalin over here. So a very, very important part of piece of this puzzle is that you need to have 0% of damage taken from blocked hits. This 0% is very, very, very important. And the reason why the 0% is important is because if you take damage from blocked hits, the moment you take damage, you start losing honor in Trial of the Sekhema. So if you're trying to do no-hit Trial of the Sekhema runs, you need a 0% damage from blocked hits. But the very, very strong line of using Svalin over here... Oh yeah, another 160 runic wand over here. So another really, really strong line is chance to block damage is lucky. So I'm not going to explain what the lucky mechanic is. I assume people know that by now. But with a 2-socket Svalin, with 2 increased block chance nodes, the base block chance is 33%. And then just using this wheel over here, we have increased 30% increased block chance here, 30% increased block chance over here, and then the rest of the small nodes, and another 4% maximum block chance. That brings us to the block cap of 54%. And then 54% rolled twice, being lucky, is roughly around about 80% block. So we have 80% chance to block. And then on a Trial of Sekhema, you just use all these evasion gear, 2.7 if you're doing no hit, right? If you're doing no hit, you do 2.7, 2.7k, 5k evasion, 800 evasion over here, and then you kind of get rid of all the damage nodes over here, and the crit nodes over here, and the mind over matter nodes over here. So you can get rid of all of those, and then spec into ignite immunity from down here. So you get ignite immunity from down here to get damage over time immunity, one source of damage over time immunity, 100% increase evasion if you haven't been hit recently. So 1, 2, 3 points, giving you 130% chance to evade over there. And then you spec 2 points in order to get CI. Maximum life is 1. You don't really care because, you know, you're doing no-hit runs anyways. So your maximum life is 1, but you're immune to chaos and bleeding. So that gets rid of 2 more sources of damage, and damage over time, which is... So if you're blocking hits, you don't take any hit damage, but you can take damage over time, right? And because chaos damage, things like poison is damage over time, bleeding is damage over time, and ignites are damage over time, those can reduce your honor even if you're blocking everything. So you want to be immune to those on no-hit Sanctum runs. yeah, so that's about it. The rest of the passive tree, you can feel free to check the POB. It's not much, honestly. You're honestly just taking dual sockets, you know, like every build. You do want these 3 over here that I'm relying on my clear. Otherwise, you're gonna have to run Pierce on this, which honestly, the Pierce doesn't actually feel that bad. And I do have plenty of damage, so let's just actually do that right now. Pierce all targets, which does mean you actually actually maybe a level 2 Pierce is nice. Yeah, because the chain is nice as well, right? Don't think I can use that with Valentis, yeah. Yeah, it's fine. But basically, I'm relying on the chain for the extra clear. Yeah, the alternate quality on Spark. You see I have a level 20 quality Spark with 16 alternate quality fires more projectiles, so you can get this up to 8 additional projectiles. So yeah, when you're firing a base of 13 projectiles and then you're firing 8 more, you're essentially firing you're firing like 50% more projectiles. That does not mean you're doing 50% more damage on Spark. I might do a video later on explaining how damage scales and how like skill mechanics works, including this, but you don't do 50% more damage if you do 50% more projectiles, but you do have 50% more clear. So yeah, Giga Clearing Spark, level 40. So, and also you can scale your Spark level to the moon because you're not actually paying for the mana cost of Spark. So normally this, if I'm self-casting my Spark, then I'd have to spend 340 mana every cast, which, you know, that's a third of my mana pool. That's pretty rough. But because I'm using spell totems, and you notice I'm using a level 8 spell totem, right? So a level 8 spell totem means this is a level 24. Technically, I don't think you can go any lower than 8, which is why I'm using a level 8 gem. But basically, you want the breakpoint to be level 23 or higher. Why do you want level 23? Because at level 23, you get limit of 3 totems, and that's a level 23 breakpoint. And right now, I can set up 5 totems. Why 5? Because I'm using Ancestral Bond, obviously, and totem limit is doubled with Ancestral Bond. So if I had a lower level, less than level 23 totems, then I'd only be able to place 4 totems. Limit 2 totems, that is doubled to 4. But I have the spirit for 5, so you really want to be able to place all 5. How am I getting spirit? Because I'm using Sparlin, I can't really use a scepter in order to get my spirit, so I'm getting spirit from amulet over here, another 60 spirit from the body armor. If you're using Temporalis, you're going to be losing 1 totem. That's totally fine. You have plenty of damage. And then a corrupted Alpha's Howl for 122. You can also buy an enchanted Alpha's Howl, which has plus 15 spirit as well. No, it goes up to plus 30, I think. One of the two, either one works. So yeah, you can kind of do that. So that's how basically the gist of the build. Mage Blood, optional. I'm just using a damage Mage Blood because I'm blinking around everywhere. I don't really need movement speed. I used to have a Temporalis over here, but I did actually lose a no-hit run due to a very, very silly thing that happened. But, so I lost my Temporalis. So yeah. The rest is all just damage and resistances. Nothing really too crazy happening. So let's do a quick map showcase. Yes. Right now, I do want to mention, I am using a amulet that grants blink. However, if you really dead set on farming Sanctum, then you don't actually want blink amulet. And the reason why you don't want to use a blink amulet is because, let's say you have a level 20 blink with 20 quality over here, right? And I don't want to use this blink because this blink only has 0 quality. I want the 20 quality blink, right? So let's say I socket in this 20 quality blink. What's going to happen is, right now my blink distance goes from here on the left side of the portal to the guild stash over here, right? So theoretically, if I just disable my blink over here, yep, I disable the blink. Okay, why? Maybe I re-enable that way. Yes, okay, so you see the amulet blink is disabled, and I should theoretically be using the 20 quality blink. So you can see it has a 5.4 and a 4.5 for like a 10 meter blink. So now I should blink a larger distance, right? No, you can see I still blink the same distance. That is just up to that portal, the left side of the portal. But if you get rid of the amulet, so that you don't actually have the other blink, you can see I am blinking. I should blink a lot further. The problem is I lost like 20, like I'm getting 5 quality from here and 5 quality from here, so I lost 10 quality. But even if I lost 10 quality, you can see I am blinking further, again from the same left side, far left portal, and you can see I'm blinking a little bit further to the guild stash. So I can't showcase it now because I don't have the 10 quality. I don't have a amulet with 10 quality that doesn't have this blink in view. But if you are farming Sanctum a lot, then I suggest you don't do this blink over here. It's not too big of a deal. You know, a 10 meter blink versus a 7.5 meter blink. You know, is it that massive of a difference? Not particularly, so you don't need to do that, but you can. Okay, so sorry, I accidentally pressed on that. Let me get back out. And then let's just quickly do a map showcase. Show you, you know, how tanky the build is, how things are going. Yeah, so I'll show you guys, again, the reputation. If you have reputation up, then you're essentially immortal. Game doesn't really like shaders. Okay, but let's say I'm gonna chuck on my reputation now. You can see the totems are doing a little bit too well. But I have reputation up. I can stand in the middle of the pack. Okay, a little bit too little pack size. But even if I don't have any reputation up, let's say I'm just blinking in to a bunch of packs, I have plenty. Just because of the Svalin value, right? Just because I have Svalin, yep. So I have Svalin, which already gives me 80% blink, and I have a great amount of damage taken from mana. So right now I have, let's say, 2.3k life, 2.3k, another 1k, so 3.3k in life and ward over here. That actually increases to like 2.5-ish, so 3.5k hit pool if I don't have any energy shield as well. But aside from that, I have 15% mom over here, another 24 to 25% on the Svalin, so that's 40%, and then another 16% over here, right? So 55%, 56%-ish. So I'm taking half my damage from my mana pool as well. So that's the thing. And plus I have 80% chance to block, so if I'm not blocking, I'm taking damage into here, but even if I do take damage, then it's totally kind of fine because I have a large hit pool and I have a large max hit. So unless you're literally standing still and AFKing, then yeah, you're not really gonna die to a single hit, and you're not gonna die to a lot of multiple hits, in fact, as well. I think this essence is bugging it out. Very good. So yeah, you can see I'm not really dying to any single hits. I'm not really dying to much, and I have 80% block, so even if I get hit multiple times, I'm still gonna be totally fine. You can see I'm blocking most hits. I'm not really taking too much damage. And I have decent recovery due to the fact that I have a sulfur flask over here. And the sulfur flask gives me... took a little bit too much damage, so I don't have my mana. So the sulfur flask over here gives you consecrated ground, and consecrated ground gives you 5% maximum recovery, life recovery per second. So I have decent recovery as well. Alongside, you can see my mana recovery is very good as well. You can scale this a lot further. There was actually a lot of things I still wanted to do with the build, but the problem is, I took a hit on the no-hit Sanctum run. So, yeah, we're not really... I am kind of done with the league because of that. It was a very, very bullshit hit. You know, for those of you who are curious, there is a clip on my Discord server. And technically on YouTube somewhere, but, you know, a little bit harder to find. So yeah, let's say there's a billion mobs like this over here, but if I have Reputation up, okay, I did, in fact, take a little bit too much hits and got hard staggered with Reputation. But if you have Reputation and you're not really just standing still on top of mobs trying to AFK like that, then you're really not going to be dying. I guess only maps with Defiance of Destiny. I guess only like builds with Defiance of Destiny can AFK on top of mobs. Let's just try to 8-mod a map for a showcase. Yeah, good enough. You know, Ellie Pen, Monster's Pen with Ellie Pen. Right, so this is a very, very rippy map. This is one of the most rippy maps possible. Let's see how I do with it. So yeah, I'm doing the map normally now. What's gonna happen is you just kind of blink around. You set a totem, you blink. You set a totem, you blink. Your blink cooldown is very short. This is a terrible map to showcase this. Aw, man, really? Okay. Okay, let's just... Yeah, I haven't played the game in a while after losing my no-hit run, so... It is not happy with me, and it's trying to do shaders. So yeah, 4 seconds on the Reputation, you just blink, set a totem, blink, set a totem, blink, use a stone altar, blink, set a totem, blink, blink. Very comfy playstyle, honestly. I like to make my builds feel comfortable. I like to make my builds feel as comfortable as possible. I don't really care about doing the highest amount of damage as possible. I just try to do what makes the build feel the best. Is this a tier 14 map? Oh god. I think it went down a tier. You will have to believe me that this build has plenty of damage to do anything you might ever want to do. So yeah, you just set your totem. You don't really even have to use your flame wall or anything. I have plenty of damage. Unfortunately, the boss did this, but it does mean I can showcase. Because I have a Rune Seeker. Okay, hold on, don't kill. Ooh, unlucky. Let's kill that Rogue Exile with the technique though. Because I have a Rune Seeker with +9 all level and +4 on the amulet as well, for a total +13, you can see I'm actually equipping a Flame Blast over here. A level 37 Flame Blast. So what is the alternate quality on the Flame Blast? You can see I have 23 plus 16. Again, you can push this to 21% actually. So yeah, 21% quality. So you can push this all the way to 44% quality. And what does the alternate quality do on Flame Blast? It gives you more magnitude of damaging ailments. What are the damaging ailments we're interested in? Ignite. So this essentially means 80% more damage with Ignite per stage. You have 10 stages. This means 800%. 800% more damage with Ignite. So yeah, a Flame Blast with that much. And you know, since we took all the cooldown recovery nodes, all the cooldown recovery nodes down here, and the cooldown recovery nodes up there as well, our cooldown on our Flame Blast is 4.5 seconds, right? So what can you do with that kind of damage? You just charge it up, boom, and he missed? What happened? Alright, let's try that again. Just need more mana. Yeah, so you can do that. You don't even get to see the ignite damage. Unfortunate. Alright, I bring out my secret weapon. The DPS dummy. So how does our ignite damage look like? Do a cheeky little showcase over here. So yeah, overall, you have 80% chance to block. You have 100% chance to block while you have Refutation. But when you don't have Refutation... let me just showcase this. I do want to set up a Flame Wall first, so that he has a little bit of flammability over here. You know, just actually showcase the Ignite. And then, let's just charge up the Ignite. Jerks! He decided to teleport. Where is he? Bang. So yeah, pretty decent. Again, we're not really a lightning, but that is what that looks like. Try that again. Yeah. Sometimes it crits, sometimes it doesn't. And if it obviously doesn't crit, then I do much less damage, which is unfortunate. But hey, second phase, I'll show you what my spark looks like. Yeah, so you can see we have a decent amount of damage. And then the Flame Blast is kind of there for fun, with a little bit of additional damage against tough enemies if you really need it. So that's what that looks like. So as I was saying, if you want to do no-hit Sekhema runs with this, you have a giga long 10-meter blink. You have a shit ton of damage. You have the totem playstyle, so you can set your totems way down here, kill the enemies off screen, like 2 or 3 screens off screen. And then, all the while you have Refutation on a 4.3 second cooldown and a 15 second duration, so 16 second duration actually. So you have 80% uptime on Refutation, which gives you 100% block chance. And then when you don't have Refutation up, you have 80% block chance with your shield. And then if you equip all these evasion gear, and then you use the relics that give you increased evasion. Oh, and by the way, on the Gemling, you also get even more evasion. So you might have noticed that I'm equipping these 2 random jewels over here. These are Dex jewels. And the reason why I'm using Dex gems is because You get dexterity motes if you equip some dex gems, and each dexterity mote gives you 5% evasion. So that multiplied by 7-ish, I think I have, is another like, you know, 35-40% more increased evasion over there. And then you use one of these over here for another 70%. So overall, that if you do all those things, it does push you to roughly 70%. Yeah, 70% evasion when you're looking at this. So 80% block, 70% evasion, 80% uptime on refutation. Yeah, and totem playstyle. You really shouldn't. This is probably the second best, aside from the darkness stuff that the monks are abusing. This is probably the second best no-hit Sanctum runner build you can have. Again, just remember you have a blink on a 1-second cooldown. You have blink on a 1-second cooldown that can, you know, do multi-screen wide distance as well. So that's another defensive layer and a speed layer, so you can really shut out those no-hit Sanctum runs. So yeah, that is essentially my Sekhema's running build. And again, for general mapping as well, this build is exceptionally good. It's exceptionally tanky. You really won't die during mapping. You can pretty much turn your brain off. It's about as brain dead as the build goes. I think that is essentially all the build mechanics. I'm just chucking on random stuff on cast on block. Don't mind that. So yeah, alright. I think that is the whole build. Again, POB will be in the description. Hope you guys have fun with the build, and good luck, best of luck to you everyone.